We began this season with a heartbeat, the language of the heart, older than any word. Since then, we've walked through love and loneliness, forgiveness and comparison, intimacy and community. Now we arrive where we always do when we follow connection to its end, back at the self, back at the heart, returning home. Welcome to the final episode of The Heart of Connection. This is the heart returning home. Along the way, we've seen that the heart is not separate from the mind, it's woven into it. Emotion as a first language, empathy as a mirror between nervous systems, love as architecture, loneliness as a signal, not a defect, forgiveness as release, compassion as strength, vulnerability as the doorway to intimacy, community as a field that holds us. Research across psychology and neuroscience keeps echoing the same melody. A strong sense of belonging and connection is one of the most powerful supports for mental health, tied to lower anxiety and depression and higher well being, resilience, and even physical health. Belonging and connection help us manage stress, cope with grief, and find meaning in difficulty. We are not meant to do this alone, and yet, the journey of connection always begins inside. One of the quiet truths beneath all these stories is this: the way we relate to ourselves shapes how we relate to everyone else. Studies on self compassion show that people who treat themselves with kindness when they struggle tend to have greater happiness, optimism, and life satisfaction, and less anxiety and depression. But there's more. Research also finds that self compassion is linked to social connectedness and interpersonal competence. People who are kinder to themselves are more likely to feel close to others, initiate interactions, self disclose, and offer emotional support. In other words, when you soften toward yourself, you don't withdraw from the world, you become more available to it. The heart returning home to itself is not the end of connection, it's where connection becomes sustainable. Imagine a person who leaves their hometown, determined to build a life elsewhere. They chase success, love, recognition, always feeling slightly outside their own story. They scroll through other lives late at night, compare timelines, carry old grudges, offer compassion outward, but rarely inward. One day after a season of exhaustion, they return to visit the place they left. They walk past their old school, a tree they once sat under, the street where they first fell in love. Nothing is exactly the same, and yet something softens in their chest, a sense of being held by a larger story than the one in their head. They realize home was never just a location, it was a feeling of belonging to people, to places, and ultimately to themselves. And that feeling is something they can choose to cultivate wherever they are now. Over these episodes, we've been quietly mapping the heart's three homes: one, within, self compassion, self reflection, forgiveness, the inner room where you meet your own experience with honesty and care; two, between, love, empathy, vulnerability, intimacy, the space between two people where truth can be spoken and held; three, beyond, community, shared purpose, collective compassion, the wider field of belonging to something larger than yourself. Well being grows where all three are tended. A strong sense of belonging to self, others, and community consistently predicts better mental health and life satisfaction. You don't need to have all three perfect, you only need to begin where you are. So, wherever you are right now, headphones on a busy street, lying awake in a quiet room, pausing between one thing and the next, this is for you. May you remember that your feelings are a language, not a flaw, that your need to belong is not neediness, but human design, that forgiveness of others and of yourself is less about excusing the past and more about freeing your future, that your compassion is not weakness, but a quiet form of courage that holds relationships together when life shakes them, and that every time you show up for a friend, for a community, for your own heart, you are helping to weave a field of connection that someone, somewhere, is depending on. Thank you for walking this season with me through love and loneliness, hurt and healing, isolation and belonging. Wherever you go next, into your work, your art, your relationships, your quiet moments. May you carry one simple knowing: connection is not somewhere outside to find. It begins with the way you meet yourself and ripples outward into every life you touch. This has been the heart of connection. And the heart, as always, is home.